This is the story of a young man who solely takes care of his sick mother. However, this young man soon finds himself in prison after going on a robbing spree with his girlfriend. But this is not an ordinary story. It has a lot of twists and turns, but I kid you not, the end will shock you. Hey guys, welcome back to I Am Movies. Today we're looking into the 2024 heist film called Marmalade. But before we jump into the details, be aware there are spoilers. Now let's get right into it. The movie begins with a simple-minded young man named Baron, who gets arrested with loads of cash following a robbery. After this, Baron gets incarcerated in a maximum security prison, where he becomes cellmates with a man named Otis. As they both introduce themselves, Baron learns that Otis is a hardened criminal, who has made several successful prison escapes. With this, Baron begs Otis to help him escape from prison, stating that he needs to get out of prison to meet his girlfriend at an undisclosed location the next day. However, Otis tells Baron that he doesn't trust anyone, not even himself. Subsequently, Baron decides to strike a deal with Otis, promising to give him a $200,000 reward if he can get him out successfully. On hearing this, Otis agrees to help Baron escape but becomes curious as to where Baron got that much money from. With this, Baron begins to tell Otis what he did and how he landed in prison. Baron tells Otis that before this time, he used to work at a local post office in his town, using his earnings to buy drugs for his terminally ill mother, Ada. However, Baron gets laid off by his boss after he refuses to cut his hair short. Upon returning home that day, Baron finds a letter in his mailbox stating that the price of his mother's medication has gone up. Later on, Baron gives Ada her pills using a moon pie and reveals to her that the prices of her pills have gone up. However, Baron tells Ada not to worry about it, stating that he'll find a way out. Days later, Baron begins to search for a new job but can't find any. Subsequently, Baron heads to a lonely park and lies on the grass frustrated. Moments later, a car driven by a lady adorned in pink hair and clothing pulls up. The lady walks up to Baron stating that she thought he was dead. Afterward, the lady asks Baron what fun things she can do in the town, and Baron reveals to her that there is nothing fun to do. With this, the lady drives off, but later circles back to the park where she sees Baron regrettably smashing a tree branch against a swing. The lady teases Baron for acting like a puppet, and later introduces herself as Marmalade. Subsequently, Baron later reveals to Marmalade that there are in fact fun things to do in the town, including a walking trail, where they can both listen to armadillos cry at night, an abandoned quarry, and an ice cream shop. With this, Marmalade insists that Baron shows her around town, and they both head out to have fun. At the quarry, Marmalade reveals to Baron that she's been in foster care for most of her life, and Baron in turn tells her about his mother's terminal illness, revealing to her that he never met his father since childhood. Afterward, Baron tells Marmalade about the rising cost of his mother's medication, revealing to her that the owner of the company that produces the drug is rich and greedy. With this, Marmalade tells Baron that if the system fails him, then he should create his own system. Subsequently, Baron takes Marmalade home as she seeks to spend the night with him. Baron introduces Marmalade to his mother, and the two soon begin to get romantic. With no source of income, Baron and Marmalade begin to devise a way to afford Ida's medication. Baron suggests they rent out the unused rooms in the house, but Marmalade convinces him that they can rob a bank instead, which shocks Baron. But Baron, thinking no other choice, soon agrees to this, and they both begin to scout for banks in different towns. After picking out a bank, they draw out a rough sketch of the bank's layout, and they soon begin to plan their movement. Marmalade also trains Baron on how to shoot a gun. Later, the two decide to get a tattoo on their ankle. Marmalade gets a heart tattoo with Baron's name in it, while Baron intends to get Marmalade's name written on a bottle of jar tattoo. But the tattooist misspells it, missing the first R, so they decide to stick with Mama instead in honor of his mother. One day, Baron notices that some of his mother's pills are missing, and the next day he asks Marmalade about it. However, she ignores him. That morning, they both go shopping for the planned heist, and they subsequently break into a wooden shed, serving as their hiding spot. Later that day, Baron insists that Marmalade tells him what happened to her mother, and how she ended up in foster care. Although hesitant, Marmalade later reveals to him that she no longer speaks to her biological mother because she didn't save her from her foster father, who had the habit of locking her in dog cages, sexually abusing and flogging her with his cane alongside other foster kids. Baron comforts Marmalade and promises to protect her, stating that he'll be her knight in shining armor. Soon they walk into a store to get masks for their planned heist. Marmalade picks out 2 expensive masks, and Baron immediately reminds her that they cannot afford them. However, Marmalade pulls out her gun and subsequently tries to rob the cashier, but she can't open the safe, so she knocks him out instead and they escape the place. Afterward, Baron feels bad about the whole robbery saga, suggesting that there are few things they could sell to make money. However, Marmalade convinces him that they only need one big heist to live their dream life. Later that night, they both hear Ida coughing, and Marmalade insists on checking up on her. Moments later, Marmalade rushes out screaming, and Baron walks in to find his mother dead. Marmalade insists she didn't know what happened, claiming that she left the room briefly, and later returned to find Ida dead. In prison, Otis comforts teary-eyed Baron on the death of his mother, and adds that his own mother has also been sick for most of his life, revealing that he's not even sure if she's alive or not. Baron asks him why Otis has refused to see his mom, and Otis reveals to Baron that his mother lives in her childhood home in Kingston, Jamaica, and that his relationship with her is kind of complicated. Shortly after, they get summoned to the prison dining hall. While eating, inmates target Baron, stealing his food and even pushing his face into his plate. Subsequently, another inmate attempts to punch Baron, but Otis intervenes, holding the inmate in a chokehold, and riot immediately breaks out in the dining hall. This prompts the prison guards to handcuff and escort Otis out of the dining hall. Once they get out of sight of the other inmates, it is then revealed that Otis is not an inmate himself, but he is in fact an undercover FBI agent, working to apprehend Marmalade as she's been tagged a serial robber. Otis was assigned as Baron's cellmate with hopes that he would extract information from Baron regarding Marmalade's whereabouts. Subsequently, Otis meets with the chief warden and his team, and they agree to stage an escape for Baron, hoping that he'll lead them to Marmalade. At this time, a warden informs them that Baron is currently on a call, and they decide to track his call, thinking it might lead them to Marmalade. Later on, Otis returns to his cell and asks Baron to continue his story. Baron reveals to Otis that after the death of his mother, he decided to go back to the post office to get his job back, but Marmalade disagrees with it, revealing that she's pregnant for Baron, which shocks him. Subsequently, she insists that they carry out the robbery immediately, to establish a better life for their unborn baby. After saying a word of prayer for a successful heist, Baron tells Marmalade that he will not go in with her, and insists on only being the getaway driver. Immediately, Marmalade gets ready for the heist wearing her all-pink signature outfit and her three-faced mask. As soon as they arrive at the front of the bank, Baron begins to panic, but Marmalade calms him down. Marmalade gets into the bank to rob it, while Baron gets into the driver's seat ready to zoom off. Moments later, Marmalade rushes out of the bank and they both escape to their secret cabin. Marmalade celebrates their successful heist by splashing the whole money in the room. However, Baron tells Marmalade that the money she stole is way more than they need to start a new life, asking her how she knows so much about the banks and how to rob them. Although hesitant, Marmalade tells Baron that she has done several other bank hits in the past. However, she states that during these robberies she only got chump changes, adding that she had made up her mind to quit robbing banks before meeting him, but later decided to do one last run to start a new life with him. Baron becomes overwhelmed with this revelation, and he leaves the room disappointed, but the two later make up and Marmalade reminds him that it's now the three of them against the world. That's including their unborn child. Later, Marmalade asks Baron to get the masks from the car so they can burn them. While getting the masks, Baron finds a bottle of his mother's pills hidden in the car. Enraged by this, Baron confronts Marmalade with a gun, demanding to know why she had the pills hidden. Marmalade soon begins to beg him, insisting that she kept the pills for emergency, and that she forgot them in the car afterward. At this time, the police arrive outside the cabin, threatening to barge in if they don't surrender. Baron suggests that they surrender and apologize, but Marmalade insists that they split the money, and later meet up at their favorite spot by 3:30 p.m. the following day, and Baron nods in agreement. Subsequently, Marmalade leaves with half the money, and Baron hands himself over to the police. Back in prison, Otis assures Baron that he'll help him escape, but asks him to reveal the location where they'll meet Marmalade. However, Baron insists that it's a secret place, promising to hand over $250,000 to him as agreed. The next day, one of the guards gets Otis out of his cell to disguise himself as a laundry guy. Subsequently, Otis hides Baron inside a laundry basket filled with towels and bed linen, and with it approaches the prison's main door. However, one of the prison guards, who at this point had no idea about the planned escape, decides to stop Otis. Otis, on the other hand, gives Baron a car key and immediately wheels him outside. The prison guard immediately arrests Otis until other FBI agents intervene. With this, Baron escapes and the FBI agents tail him in a different vehicle. First, they trail Baron to a florist where he buys some flowers, and later drops them on a grave, which is believed to be his mother's. Afterward, they tail him to an ice cream shop, believed to be the secret meeting spot he talked about since the two often ate ice cream together. Once Baron's getaway car gets out of the parking lot, they begin to follow him closely till he makes a quick stop halfway. However, as they move to apprehend him, they realize that the driver is neither Baron nor Marmalade but an employee from the ice cream shop. The employee reveals to them that Baron had told him that he could keep the car if he could drive it around town successfully. At this point, Otis realizes that Baron has just played him, With this, Otis calls for an all-out search for Baron and Marmalade. It is then revealed that Baron had left the ice cream shop in a yellow car parked outside the shop. Baron drives to the cabin and unveils bags of money from inside the chimney, alongside newspaper clippings which shows that Baron already knew that Otis is an undercover agent right from the beginning. At the same time, Otis rushes to the grave Baron had visited, only to find out that the grave didn't belong to Ida, and that Baron didn't leave any bouquet behind, only a jar of marmalade with Mama written on it, just like his tattoo. With this, Otis requests photos from the bank's CCTV footage, and he soon realizes that Baron is not as foolish as he had pretended to be, figuring out that the robber in the photo has the same tattoo as Baron. It is then revealed that Marmalade never existed at all. The robberies were all carried out by Baron, dressed like a drag queen. Meanwhile, Baron cuts his hair off, puts on a dress and a blonde wig, and manages to get past a police checkpoint, subsequently evading capture disguised as a woman. Once out of town, Baron walks into a pharmaceutical store as Mr. Lamram to receive a large order of pleonexia for Ida Lamram, which when spelled backwards says Marmalade. At the same time, Otis and his team finally track Baron's prison call to a company named Baron Pharmaceutical, the same company that produces pleonexia. On getting there, they meet Don Frankel, the CEO of the company. Soon, Don Frankel reveals to them that the money that was stolen actually belongs to him. And after learning that the agents have not caught the robber yet, Don Frankel angrily turns away. However, Otis soon realizes that Don Frankel might be the same person that Baron had referred to in his story as Marmalade's abusive foster father. Otis confirms if Don Frankel still fosters children, and later sends his team over to check for the cages in Baron's story. Soon, the FBI confirms Otis's suspicion, and they immediately get Don Frankel arrested. Moments later, Otis finds a moon pie cake tucked in the wing mirror of his vehicle, and soon realizes that Baron had just sent another message and that he must have been nearby recently. Baron walks into a nearby store just opposite the company, where the pharmacist reveals to him that Baron had just purchased his entire stock of pleonexia and left to get a ticket from a travel agent nearby. Otis goes to meet the travel agent and he realizes that Baron had left him an envelope. Inside the envelope, Otis finds a note from Baron which reads, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. I'm taking care of my mother. I hope you'll do the same. Farewell, secret agent." Otis also finds out that Baron had purchased first-class tickets on his behalf to Jamaica for Otis to visit his own mother. The next day, Baron pulls into a staff parking space at a nursing home. Once inside, he approaches the front desk nurse, who hands him a clipboard and keys, revealing that he also works there. Baron goes from room to room, dropping free medication off for the residents. Finally, Baron reaches Ida's room where he also replenishes her medication. Afterward, he enters the room to be with her, offering her a moon pie as they both gaze out the window. And this is where the story ends. If you'd like to see us recap any other movies or topics you have in mind, just drop a comment and let us know. And don't forget to hit the like button, share this recap, and subscribe to stay updated for the next one. Until next time.